Picture a ninja, and chances are you see a shadowy figure in a black onesie screaming, "Look at me at Comic Con." Thanks to movies, cartoons, and Halloween aisles, pop culture outfits ninjas like head to toe, ink black stealth warriors, face mask included, ready for their dramatic rooftop moon leaps. But hold your shuriken. That wardrobe is more stagecraft than stealthcraft. The iconic black suit comes straight from Japanese theater, kabuki and bunraku, where stagehands dressed in black to signal invisibility. When someone needed to vanish on stage, black garb was a visual ignore this guy trick. Enter the ninja myth. Dress the sneaky folks like stagehands, and presto, everyone believes ninjas look like prop moving magicians. Real ninjas, though? They'd snort their sake at that idea. Wearing a black cat suit to sneak through a rice paddy at midnight is about as clever as sporting neon at a goth party. Black sticks out in nature, especially under moonlight's patchy glow. True ninjas were invisibility experts, not by night vision cat costumes, but by blending in. They dressed as farmers, monks, merchants, or noodle vendors, anything that screamed boring civilian, not professional assassin. So sorry, Batman. The only thing real ninjas aimed to slay was suspicion, not fashion critics. Their golden rule: the best ninja outfit is the one you don't remember. If your style screams, "I'm an assassin," you've already lost. In history's shadows, it's clear. Discretion, not drama, was the deadliest weapon of all. Beyond their attire, misconceptions also surround the weapons ninjas primarily used. Picture a shadowy ninja skidding across moonlit rooftops, flinging shuriken with the enthusiasm of a caffeine fueled darts champion. Each wrist flick sends a spinning star slicing through the air. At least, if we trust Hollywood, which apparently believes ninjas spent more time perfecting their aim than any Olympic archer. On screen, every problem gets solved with a quick toss. Enemies drop faster than tofu at a sushi bar. You'd think Japan was hoarding shuriken like they were the next big crypto. But here's where the myth smacks into reality. The idea that ninjas leaned on throwing stars like their Swiss Army knife is about as plausible as expecting pizza delivery by carrier pigeon. Counting shuriken as a ninja's main weapon is like giving a modern SWAT team pocket change and a stern glare. Fact check: ninjas actually favored gear better suited to close combat, like the trusty ninjato, a short sword, sturdy staffs, and an assorted toolbox of clever gadgets. Shuriken, mostly distractions, diversions, and the kind of pestering that got enemies to say, "Ow, what was that?" instead of "Goodbye, cruel world." And before you picture a secret ninja warehouse stocked with shiny stars, know this: shuriken often came from whatever was lying around: nails, coins, scrap metal, so much for dramatic weapon runs. If shuriken were really the star players, ninja combat would look less like sleek espionage and more like an endless, awkward frisbee party. No self respecting shadow warrior would bet their life on a sharpened washer when a sword was within reach. But hey, in the stealthy world of ninjas, sometimes the deadliest weapon was just blending in, or in desperate times, tossing another coin and praying for a lucky hit. Shifting focus from ninjas to warriors, more openly recognized in historical battles, samurai often take center stage. So you think only samurai sliced through Japan's battlefields? right? Cue a montage of stoic warriors, top knots bobbing, katanas gleaming, all fighting for eternal glory, and the perfect Instagram angle. The classic cliche: samurai did all the fighting, while everyone else stayed home, tending rice and feeling very unlucky. Well, reality just drew its own sword. The Japanese battlefield wasn't an exclusive club. It was more open than a 24-hour ramen joint and payday. Besides samurai, wars were packed with a shigaryu. Translation: guys who couldn't afford cool armor. These foot soldiers got their training on the fly. If you could hold a spear without tripping, congratulations, you might be drafted. Ashigaru often outnumbered samurai, forming the muscular backbone of massive armies, all dreaming of upgrading their gear beyond pot for helmet. But wait, there's more. Enter the Sohei, Buddhist warrior monks, proving that bad haircuts and spiritual zeal could win wars. These robed renegades sometimes marched in forces that made samurai look more like a boutique franchise than a battlefield juggernaut. And don't forget the peasants. When life got tough, taxes, weather, or a soy sauce shortage, they staged eco-icky revolts, occasionally toppling entire castles. Spoiler alert, not everyone fighting was a professional, and monk-on-monk brawls were a real thing. Yes, samurai brought style and sharp swords, but Japanese warfare was a team sport. Open enrollment, funky dress codes, and enough oddballs to fill a festival parade. So next time someone says, only samurai fought, hand them a history book and maybe a spear. Central to the samurai's legendary status was their iconic weapon, the katana. If cartoons and late night infomercials are to be believed, samurai swords slice through everything except existential dread. Blink and you'll miss the montage: demonic monsters, SUVs, and awkward snacks, all cleaved by a single flick of a katana. Pop culture has turned the humble Japanese sword into the Swiss Army knife of lethal weapons, half arsenal, half miracle. Who needs customer support when a katana could cut your Wi Fi bill in two? But let's sheath the fantasy, the myth. Samurai swords are so sharp they could slice tanks, concrete, and maybe even the Monday morning blues in half. In reality, katanas are brilliantly engineered, but not secretly enchanted. Japanese swordsmiths weren't channeling divine power. They were working with iron so subpar it'd have been sent back to Amazon. Their folding and forging wizardry was about upgrading mediocre metal, not forging the Excalibur of the East. Meanwhile, European sword makers sweated over steel too, just without the TikTok worthy curves. Contrary to blockbuster showdowns, katanas often bent or chipped against armor, and real duels usually ended in a rushed, undignified scuffle, more awkward hug with knives than adamantium meets warm butter. Modern demos? Sure, katanas slice rolled tatami mats, but so will a fiercely sharpened shovel. Even legendary samurai would hesitate before trying to slash their way out of a parking ticket. If katanas really cut through everything, Japan would have conquered the world and the cheese grater centuries ago. So next time you wrestle with stubborn packaging or an annoying subscription, don't reach for a sword. Respect the katana for its history, not its supernatural reputation. And remember, sometimes the real battle is just opening a bag of chips. This distinction in weaponry plays into the larger narrative of rivalry between ninjas and samurai. picture a silent ninja and a stoic samurai locked in an eternal, anime worthy grudge match. Shurikens flying, katanas clashing, and mutual disdain deeper than a sushi chef's knife. It's the kind of rivalry that has action figures, video games, and bored office workers everywhere asking, who would win? But before you pick sides, Team Sneaky or Team Stoic, let's sharpen our history blades. Popular media paints ninjas and samurai as lifelong arch nemeses, the Batman and Joker of feudal Japan. Legendary? Absolutely. Accurate? Not so much, unless you count their fierce competition for best cosplay at anime conventions. The real story: ninjas, or shinobi to be formal, and samurai weren't mortal enemies, but more like colleagues from wildly different departments. Samurai handled HR, honor, and reputation, while ninjas specialized in creative acquisitions and corporate espionage. Here's the plot twist: samurai sometimes went undercover as ninjas, or at least outsourced the dirty work to them when their rigid code wouldn't allow otherwise. Ninjutsu wasn't just smoke bombs and wall crawling. It was guerrilla strategy that helped samurai outwit rivals, a bit like strategy meetings with a dash of sabotage. Sure, they had their spats, a little sword rattling in the break room, but no epic, never ending feud. In reality, ninja versus samurai clashes were about as common as a polite internet comment. If they'd been true mortal enemies, feudal Japan would have stocked up on first aid kits and therapists. The real drama was probably who swiped whose lunch. Today's pop culture feud is pure fiction. Hollywood and manga had a field day, while samurai themselves rarely spent downtime penning angry haikus about their so called rivals. So, next time you see a dramatic ninja samurai showdown, remember, the real contest was brains over blades. Beyond their conflicts, samurai were also known for strict codes of conduct, including their approach to death. Imagine if every minor embarrassment demanded a dramatic samurai style exit. Forgot your friend's name? Out comes the dagger. Lost at Monopoly? Time to pen a solemn death poem. If that had been real, 16th century Japan would have been a ghost town, with funeral flower shops making a killing. The myth, splashed across films and fired up imaginations, claims seppuku, ritual suicide by self disembowelment, was the samurai's go to for anything from spilled tea to checkmate. In that script, the average samurai couldn't make it through breakfast without planning a dignified exit. But the facts slice right through the melodrama. Seppuku was a rare, highly ritualized event, more lifetime achievement award than casual pastime, reserved for extraordinary disgrace or court-ordered punishment, not every bad hair day or lukewarm haiku submission. In reality, most samurai died comfortably in their beds, unthreatened by their own kitchenware. Yes, Bushido revered honor, but it didn't require daily swordplay against oneself as routine maintenance. Seppuku was governed by elaborate rules and usually permitted only under strict circumstances. Think court mandated, not mood swing inspired. More often than not, less gory consequences prevailed: house arrest, exile, or the dreaded Mad Lib apology letter, far more likely to cause a paper cut than an audience with mortality. So why do we picture every clumsy samurai dramatically sharpening his blade? Blame romantic later writers and Hollywood, not dusty warrior diaries. The real tragedy? Losing at Go didn't trigger a fatal send-off. Otherwise, Feudal Japanese board game nights would have ended before the rice cakes even arrived. Next time you drop your chopsticks, breathe easy. Nobody expects a death poem. Just aim for an apology note, and maybe use parchment, not a katana. In contrast to samurai customs, legends about ninjas often include extraordinary supernatural abilities. Picture this: a shadowy figure tiptoeing across a moonlit pond, vanishing in a puff of smoke. Ninja, or stage magician auditioning for Vegas? According to Hollywood, the next act probably involves fire breathing koi and a rabbit pulled from a shuriken. Popular culture has painted ninjas as mystical beings, masters of vanishing acts, water walking escapades, and so much smoke you'd swear they had a corporate sponsor. Fog machines are us. But hold your invisible horses. The myth of the supernatural ninja owes far more to storytelling flair than eyewitness accounts, unless those witnesses were prone to swooning over clever costume changes. In reality, historical ninjas were less Gandalf with nunchaku and more crafty guys with a plan. Their true talents? Disguises, surveillance, and distraction. Think surprise party planner, not mystical wizard. Take the famous walking on water stunt. No magic here, just clever carpentry. Wooden Mizugumo shoes designed to help ninjas float across ponds, or at least arrive with soggy feet. And invisibility? No cloaks needed. They simply became human chameleons, blending into crowds, houses, or even shrubberies. If hide and seek were an Olympic sport, Japan would have swept the gold. Why all the magical hype? Easy. Japanese folklore loves a ghost story, and tales of mystical ninjas sprouted faster than mushrooms in the rainy season. Real ninjas were crafty spies, not Hogwarts dropouts, leaving the sorcery to magicians and marketing departments. So next time you see a ninja dodging bullets while somersaulting over rivers, remember, their most magical feat was getting paid to sneak around in pajamas. Hollywood can keep its smoke bombs. A ninja with a map beats one with a teleportation spell any day. Finally, the contrast extends to perceptions of samurai character, often idealized as the epitome of honor. Picture a samurai, the noble warrior, solemnly reciting poetry as cherry blossoms drift by. Utterly honorable, right? A walking emblem of discipline, courage, and grace. Maybe even with a mystical soundtrack playing softly in the background. Honor was their middle name, right next to selective exceptions. Let's slice through the myth. Folk legend casts samurai as living saints, unwavering paragons forever shackled to Bushido. The truth? Bushido was more like an aspirational LinkedIn tagline than a daily dress code. Sure, samurai loved grand speeches about honor, but for many, the only thing sharper than their swords was their instinct for self preservation. That whole death before dishonor mantra? Absolutely. Just as soon as prying your rival's castle from his cold, dead hands felt easier. Until then, honor clocked out for a leisurely lunch. Sometimes they followed Bushido, unless, of course, I really want your castle was the mood of the day. Powerful clans like the Tokugawas and Ashikagas were masters of twisting honor into pretzels, perfect justifications for betrayals, sneak attacks, and political backstabbing. And let's not forget the common folk. Samurai occasionally moonlighted as village bullies, assassins, and yes, peasant headloppers, for fun. Not exactly poetry, unless you count panicked haikus during the long, peaceful stretches of the Edo period. Think 200 years of calm. Many samurai swapped their swords for, wait for it, spreadsheets. They became bureaucrats, tax collectors, landlords, or simply full time drama queens, squabbling over titles and stipends. And if you picture masterless samurai as brooding lone wolves on soul searching journeys, here's a plot twist. Ronin often took up mercenary gigs, highway robbery, or moody sword toting wandering, with an extra large chip on their shoulders. So, next time you imagine a samurai gliding beneath the blossoms, remember, honor was often a moving target, especially when castles or lunch breaks were on the line.